Well, hello, everybody. This is Dr. Danielle Dupre for the Parent Empowerment Summit. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Charlotte Reznick. Charlotte Reznick is the foremost authority on how to engage with and develop mindfulness, meditation, and imagination for children and teens. She's a child educational psychologist, a former UCLA Associate Clinical Professor of Psychology, and was named Imagery International's Person of the Year in 2012 for the global impact of her work. She also blogs for Psychology Today and Huffington Post, is a frequent media consultant, and teaches workshops internationally on the healing power of child and adolescent imagination. You can find out more about her, including watching her TEDx talk, at www.imageryforkids.com. Welcome, Dr. Reznick. It's a pleasure having you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to meet you.
So you wrote a book, The Power of Your Child's Imagination, How to Transform Stress and Anxiety into Joy and Success. And oh boy, do we need that. And you talk about 9 imagination tools. So we're going to talk about these imagination tools. I'm very curious. What are they?
Well, first I want to say that I go from the premise that kids have a lot of wisdom inside. And absolutely. I want to help them get in touch with that wisdom. And so sometimes when you ask a child directly, like, why'd you do that? Or how could you fix it? They go, I don't know. But if we kind of play with their imagination and teach them these imagination tools, or we could call them meditation tools, we could call them mindfulness tools. Frankly, it depends on my audience, but It's all connected. So what I've done is over the years, because I've worked both in the inner city, in the school system, and now more private practice with higher socioeconomic levels, I kind of tested things out with kids, and they taught me what works for them. So the basis is you got to have a good foundation. And for me, it's just like one of the kids, I think he was 7, he said, the breath is the way in. So when I started,
At 7 years old, it's amazing.
Yeah. And, at the time I started working and developing the program I used, I also was developing and learning a meditation practice. So it kind of went parallel. Kind of as I'm working with imagery, imagination, meditation tools, they came together. So back then, which was a long time ago, 30 years ago or so, you couldn't mention the word meditation in the school system. And I was full-time in the schools at that point. Now I'm full-time for many, many years in private practice. So we just said relaxation. Maybe we said guided imagery, maybe we didn't, because the idea is when you're more relaxed, you could think more clearly and do better at school and perform better. But the first tool, I have the two foundation tools. The first tool is really a meditation breath. I call it the balloon breath because it's an easy visual. Everyone can imagine a balloon. And the idea is that there's a balloon about 2 inches below your belly button. And when you breathe in, to breathe in slowly, like I do a count of 3. I know some people do more, but it's hard for kids to even breathe into 3. The balloon gets bigger. And when you breathe out, the balloon flattens again. Because normally when we're upset, we're breathing high up. And we want to breathe like the 2 inches below your belly button is in the Eastern meditation community is the dantian. So that's the center of your body. Yeah. When you breathe to the center, it relaxes you, it centers you, because we know, especially more recently, that when we're upset, the part of our brain, the amygdala, gets all fired up, and it closes down our thinking part, our frontal lobe. So we can't think. So if you're mad, you really cannot think clearly. So the idea is no matter what's going on, whether kids are having anxiety or sleep problems or anger or frustration, whatever, if we could calm down that part of the brain, then they could think a little bit better. And when we bring in that, say, right brain, the imagination, then we could really be creative in our problem-solving abilities.
I really like that idea of the balloon. It's so easy to imagine, even for adults.
Yes.
Just imagine a balloon in your belly. That's if you don't mind, I'm going to use that.
and then I'll start with kids by having them take 3 breaths with their eyes open, because that's not threatening. And then try 3 breaths with their eyes closed. A lot of times kids or teens or even adults don't feel comfortable closing their eyes. It's giving up control. So if they start with their eyes open, sometimes it's easier to close their eyes. And if they're really uncomfortable, I just say soften your eyes, look at a point. Just want to make it fun, easy, and comfortable. And then they often tell me they notice when their eyes are closed, they're more relaxed and they're not distracted by everything around them. And I always tell them that as much as there is on the outside, there's that much and more inside. So I'm trying to help them balance the kind of our 21st century wild world, which is like over the top, to balance with the inward direction. And I think it's a real good anecdote just on its own. So when I'm speaking at conferences or organizations, I'll tell them, if this is all you come away with, the balloon breath, the meditation breath, that's enough, because it really could change one's world. But to me, it's like my little friend said, it's the way in. And once you're in that breathing space, then I often have them create what I call a special place. The idea is a special place is like a safe place where you feel safe, where you could be on your own or with people that love you or care about you or your family or friends. But there's a caveat. We kind of walk down the path and we open the door with your name on it. Once someone opens that door and steps across, they love and accept you just the way you are. Because I want the kids to feel safe and welcome in their own space that they're creating, their sanctuary they're creating for themselves. So it serves as like a little peaceful place. It could be a mini vacation, but it's also a place to do their inner work. So they get comfortable, they put anything they want in it. Some people are outside, some inside, some in Disneyland. Just not the most quiet place, Disneyland, but I like starting wherever the kids show me. So once they're there, then we have to help them access their wisdom. Because so much, and I'll tell them about 10% of what we say or do is conscious and 90% isn't. We're trying to get into that wise place that has all this information waiting to come out. So then, how do you access with kids something fun? I do it in a couple of ways. One is finding an animal friend, to like a protective creature. And like I'm thinking about one girl who's about 10 or 11 and she was having trouble sleeping. And so she wanted to learn how to sleep before she went off to college. We had a little time, but she was afraid to turn the light off and allow her body to relax enough to sleep. She was afraid of like burglars or bad men. And even though they had good neighborhood, lock on the door, dogs, protective dogs that would bark, we know that fear is not logical. So we had to help her with her real fear. So what she imagined was this big white dragon wrapping around her bed. She called him Valcor, and that he protected her. And she also, just for extra measure, put a tiger by the door. So she had a tiger by the door, and she had Valcor all around her bed, and she was able to relax enough to close her eyes and allow herself to fall asleep.
And that all comes from that inner wisdom, because right. if you were telling somebody just imagine a dragon, that wouldn't work, but because it came from her, it was powerful.
Exactly. I mean, I even had one little boy who checked in, which is another tool later on, with his belly that said to share at preschool. Well, sure, maybe he heard it from his parents or his teacher, but it was like a revelation when it came from himself. So that's really key. That's really critical to help the kids. So it was really funny because a few weeks later, she was worried about her parents and her brother, and maybe they wouldn't be protected. So I asked her to go inside and see who came up to help. And so Valcor sent his cousins to go protect them.
I love imagery
And then even at
imagination.
school, she must have been bragging or talking to one of her friends about how this helped her. And her friend said, "That's so stupid. You know, it's just your imagination." And she said, "My fears come from my imagination. So I had to go into that realm to fix them."
Wow, that's deep too.
I know. It's like, oh, maybe I'll start paying her, you know.
Yeah, something like that, yes.
So my role is to just be like a little bit of a message to steer the kids in the right direction to help them find their answers. So sometimes animal friends go on vacation, they go to Hawaii, they go to Mexico, and they don't leave anyone in their place. Or sometimes you need something stronger and more powerful. Maybe the animal friend's not working, which is kind of a little bit resistance, but it's, you know, I have an answer for everything. So we pull in wizards. So a wizard is a little bit different than an animal friend that's kind of more protective. A wizard's like a master teacher in human form. And the wizard could be, oh, I've seen lots of wizards. I mean, I have pictures and pictures. So there's like, it could be an all-purpose wizard. And a lot of times there's those blue hats and the, you know, gown with the stars and the moons. Or it could be like a specific wizard, like someone had a time management wizard, or
Oh, wow. Okay.
or someone had a self-esteem wizard. It was really kind of cute because it was like this very thin girl. I'm thinking, I'm in LA. That's a little bit model type. Okay. But, you know, you could have a math wizard. One little girl had a spelling wizard. She was really scared, and whenever she's very bright, but whenever there was a spelling test in first grade, she would just cry. She couldn't take the test. Sometimes I had to carry her out of class. So, you know, in her special place, a spelling wizard came to her who whispered the answers in her ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she really changed a lot. So wizards, you know, they come in different forms, and some kids are really into wizards. And there's Harry Potter that still is very popular. And some kids aren't. Maybe a teenager, they're not into wizards. So we use a wise person, which could be, it could be someone they know or someone they haven't met, or it could even be themselves having already overcome an issue. Like one boy who was still bedwetting, maybe he was 12 or so, which is really late. Usually, you know, physically it resolves by 7. But he spoke to the older, wiser part of himself who was 15 and had overcome the bedwetting. And that part of him said, never give up. So we work with imagery, and maybe as we move along, I'll tell you what we did with him. But that was so helpful for him. And then that's 4 tools actually already. And the 5th tool is having your animal friends and your wizard bring you gifts to help you with your problem. So the gift could be something real, I mean, something they give you, or it could be something they say or something they do. So like one girl, she was having trouble with her sister. She was very frustrated, especially in the car when she had no out. So her wizard gave her a potion that she could pour over herself that was like, be nice to sister potion. And it was so fun. Another girl.
And you can never think ahead of what the kid's gonna say.
No.
I love to do imagery because it's better than watching a movie. It's being right there in it.
Yes, it's really and you could, as the parent, as the therapist, as the caretaker, you could have fun and use your own imagination. So I present these tools to get you started, like in a toolbox, and then you could mix and match depending on the situation or depending on what's happening. I'll often say to a teen or a child, okay, close your eyes. Let's, focus on your breathing. Go to your special place. Let me know when you're there, and then see who shows up to help you. And it could be anyone. It could be some kids make up their own animal friends, and like a dog, chicken, someone made up, or an animal friend that has been passed away. or a person. I was just doing a conference. I was just speaking at a conference not too long ago with, many, many adults, and the emotions that come up when someone comes to them, it's often a person that's crossed over coming back to speak to them and give them a message. Now, I don't know where that's coming from. It doesn't matter to me. It matters the emotional impact on the person, both the adult and the child. So this is a pretty nice little beginning toolbox, right? And depending on what's happening, I try to teach the different tools, and I've recorded different tools just so that kids and parents could have something to practice. So once we have the wisdom coming from our helpers, then maybe it's a little more ambiguous. We go into the body and check with the wisdom of the body. So for me, the first place is checking in with your heart wisdom, your heart center, like at heart level in the middle of your body, and checking with your belly. Now, the heart and belly are very interesting because people who have received heart transplants, they found anecdotally that sometimes you start liking a food or an activity that the donor heart liked and you hadn't before. So it doesn't happen every time, but it happens enough that researchers take note of it. So it's like we have a brain in our heart, and in our belly, there are cells in the belly that are similar to cells in the brain. So we have a brain in our belly. So I like to combine the belly brain, the heart brain, and the mind brain. And now, I was thinking of mind and how popular the word mindfulness is now. And I think Americans particularly like the word mindfulness, or the idea of it, because it has the word mind in it, and it doesn't have the word meditation in it. But the truth is, mindfulness is a form of meditation.
Exactly.
So
many of those words convey the same feeling, emotion, or same meaning.
Yes. So that's why I say, depending on my audience or who I'm talking to, like I was speaking to a teen and I said, hey, do you do any yoga or meditation? And you go, oh, no, my mother does that. And I go, okay, we're just going to do some deep breathing.
Yeah. And a question that came to mind, has the imagery, like the wizards and the helpers, have changed over the years? I know you started a long time ago. Did they have the same type of characters, or did the media actually influence the characters and they're bringing up different ones now?
Different ones do come up. Like when Harry Potter was very, very popular, wizards were more popular. And it depends what's in the movies. Like one boy, and I also use superheroes. I kind of started using superheroes in the last several years.
That's very popular now.
So it's very popular. One boy had Thor as a superhero and had his big, hammer. And yes, so it doesn't matter. Whatever the kids are into, I think that's important. I'm glad you pointed out, because it's important to be flexible. It's the base idea that you want to work with. Because it's really teaching the kids to get in touch with other parts of their brain, other parts of themselves that have the answers. So whether we call it a wizard or a superhero, it doesn't matter. Everyone's different. I had a little boy who was going through cancer treatment. He had brain cancer and went to his spine. And so he had lots of superheroes to help the doctors help him. And that was very powerful for him. And in fact, sometimes I often have them create a healing pond for themselves. That's one of the CDs I made, because one time I had a group and one kid had a headache, one kid had a stomach ache, one kid had a canker sore that was hurting. So I thought, so I just we did this healing, creating a garden, which is like your body and your life, and a healing pond. And that really helped them rid themselves of their pain that day and continue. And so this little boy with the cancer, his pond turned out to be blood. It was filled with blood. And for me, it was like, whoa. And then I realized, wait a second, this boy gets transfusions all the time, and that transfusion of blood really helps him. So that was his image. So when you're practicing this with your kids or your friends or people you work with, you have to, like we've been saying, you never know what's going to come up. And you want to go with wherever the child is at. It's kind of like when they find a gift, they might open it and not see what it is. So we shine a light on it. Or it might be a book and it's in a different language. So we get a Google Translate or something. So And I'll also start using more terms like Google Translate. Because I want
Yeah.
just staying up to date. And I try to stay current with all the games that are popular. And yesterday, some teen told me about a new game I didn't know about, online. And so I count on them to help me out and what's new. But if we're going back to the body, check with your heart. What's your heart's message for you? What's your belly message? Close your eyes. You put your hand in the heart center, put your hand in your belly, see what they have to tell you. Because part of my own personal meditation path, it's Buddhist, Taoist, Confucianist, although I've studied many, many others. But the idea, it's a path from the heart. So I find in just working with families, if I can help them open their hearts to each other, that can really be very healing for everyone. And so the heart is very important. And if the kids could check in every day with their heart when they're waking up or going to sleep or when they have trouble, it really can make a difference. So the heart and the belly is very important. They might agree, they might disagree, but also the rest of the body is important because we have feelings in all parts of our body. So I tried to help the kids develop a language or extend their language of their feelings in their body. So where do you keep your stress? Where do you keep your happiness? Where do you keep your calmness? And we'll often do feeling portraits. So when the kids are little, I might trace them on big paper. And when the kids are larger, we'll just do an outline of a body and we'll check in where different feelings are, what color they are, what shape they are. There was one boy who had a lot of anger. And so his anger was red hot in his belly. And when I work with, say, a negative feeling, I mean, people say no feelings are negative, but the idea of negative and positive, feeling you're comfortable with and you're not. So I like two anecdotes. So what is the opposite of anger for him or similar? So he said calmness. And for him, calmness was in his shoulders and blue. Mm-hmm. And then I asked, where was love? And love was in his heart and it was white. So then I'll have him, okay, we might also rate the number, like how big is anger right now, 0 to 10, that scale, and the other feelings, calmness, because I want to use it later for them. Because again, I'm teaching them to do this on their own, teaching the parents or the kids to do it on their own so they don't need me anymore. So for him, I have him breathe in the calmness from his shoulders, the blue calmness into the red anger, and just observe, and then breathe the calmness throughout, the blue calmness throughout the rest of his body, and just notice if anything changed. So that's where a mindfulness component comes in, observing without judgment. And then I have him breathe in the white love into the anger, and observe, and then breathe in love throughout his whole body. And what he told me was that the calmness covered up the anger, but when he breathed in the love, it dissipated the anger. It's like the anger exploded and only love was left.
And how old was that child?
He was he wasn't a teenager. He was probably 9 years old, 9 or 10.
That's quite amazing, yeah.
I know. So it's pretty awesome. This is very powerful stuff. Even though, like, when I talk about it, I try to make it light and fun, but it's very powerful. And I take my responsibility and what I'm doing very seriously. And part of it is being right there with the child. Whether you're a parent or a therapist or a teacher, you want to be right there with whoever is in front of you.
Yeah, it sounds like fun playing with little animals and color, but it's amazing how deep and wise these responses are.
Yes. And it makes them feel so good. Just the other week, I had a boy who's having a lot of trouble with his younger brother because, frankly, they're annoying, like most kids will tell me. It's just part of how, it's made that way so we can learn to deal with annoying people. And so most kids that I see who have brothers and sisters would maybe prefer not to have them, and kids who don't have them prefer to have them. But usually what gets them is they realize, well, there's someone to play with, you know, when there's no one else to play with, and they kind of like that. But he's having a really hard time. So I asked him to check in with his heart. You know, he closes his eyes, he checks in, and his heart told him, well, think about it like he is your friend that will never go away. He'll always be there. And he thought he will never leave you. And that was meaningful to this boy because he's afraid of being alone. So it shifted how he could see his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, then extend himself a little bit more. So with this whole, where do you keep your feelings in your body, you could have a lot of fun with it. You could talk, each feeling could talk to each other. You could use the color to release it. You could breathe it out. Like when kids are angry, we know it's very hard to do anything. You can't think. They could just breathe it out through their feet. One girl had like a Red Bull anger, like in her, you know, just in her knee or something. And but in her heart, she had a love potion. And when she dropped it on the Red Bull, it turned him into this cute little blue creature that was sleeping. And she also had a filter at her neck that lived in her toe, but came up to her neck to help her when she spoke not sound so mean. So she could learn to filter her words, which most of us use.
Yeah, we could use that. Yeah, it's not only for children, these tools that you're giving us.
Yes, no, absolutely, for adults too. I even there's a meditation in the book. I made a meditation, you know, I recorded the meditation because parents, whoever, caretakers need these tools.
Yeah, they are some of the wisest tools I ever used. And again, the wisdom that comes through is just amazing and surprising. Most of the time, it's so surprising.
Yes, yes. And sometimes the kids say, allow me to speak to the parents and, you know, want me to share. And sometimes not so much. It's okay, you know, with either way. I'm thinking of another heart tool that's really helpful for kids. A lot of kids, more and more, I find over the last 8 years, more and more kids are more anxious. There's more fear in their lives. And before 10 years ago, I would not say it changed that much. And in the last several years, I see more and more stressed out, anxious kids. So one of the things that parents sometimes do with the kids that's helpful is you imagine a beam of love from your heart to their heart. You know, like what color does your daughter or someone to receive, or what color do you want to send them, or, you know, just maybe I'm sending pink love from my heart to yours right now. Maybe like on a cord of light, a beam of light. Maybe you're sending yellow light back to me. That connects us. It connects us from our heart. So if I'm away from you, we'll practice in the room, we'll practice from the waiting room to my room. They can practice at home and feel a connection. And when they're going to camp, when they're going to school, that's helpful. When they're going to sleepaway camp, all very helpful. So they have something to do that distracts their worry mind and feels very positive.
Yeah, and feeling connected is already helpful in fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
I didn't count how many tools you spoke to us about. Did we run the whole gamut of the 9?
No. All right. So we did the balloon brush and special place, the foundation tools, then connecting with our wisdom, the animal friend, the wizard, and the gifts, and connecting to our body wisdom, the heart and the belly, and the other feelings. Why am I counting 7? And then there's also, we're missing one. We're missing 2. Maybe I didn't count right. The last one I use is being aware of energy. Wait. I remembered, because I'm thinking energy for healing, but color for healing. And so we talked about that when we're talking about changing the feeling. The idea of using color for healings. And also when you're asking the kids you're with, what color are their feelings, it could change from day to day. And that doesn't matter. So one day anger could be red, one day it could be black. One day love could be white, another pink, another red. It doesn't matter. The idea is connecting with how you are feeling in the moment and being able to work with it. The last tool is using energy for healing. Now, energy is, might sound like a woo-woo term, but we know there's energy around us from quantum physics. And like I always like to tell the story, I'm from New York, even though I live in LA now. And if I would walk down the street, I would feel like, is this a good place? If it's not, I go the other way. I don't wait for something bad to happen. I trust my intuition. And that word intuition is a very important word for me, because that's what I'm trying to help the kids develop, to develop their intuition and to trust it and to pay attention to it. That little voice that, is kind of in the back of our mind that we don't always hear, better to pay attention to it. So, and to even demonstrate how energy works, it's very easy. You could just rub your hands together really fast, and then when you slowly, that's energy. You can't see it, but you can feel it. And
you can feel it, and you can compress it and learn to feel it. Yeah.
And it's used in Qigong, which is a form of healing, and an exercise in a way, and Tai Chi. So it's more from the Eastern viewpoints, but there's been a lot of research now in the West. When I was writing the book, one of the things I had access to was a study done with 10 different healers and a bunch of different people, and a functional MRI. That's where it's like the MRI for the body, but this measures like brain processes. So a person would be in the MRI, and they didn't know when the person who was doing the healing, it was different healing modalities. It could be Eastern, Western, shamanic, but when it turned out, when the healer was doing their healing energy work, the functional MRI changed in their brain.
I hadn't heard of that study. It makes a lot of sense to me, but that's wonderful.
Yes, I have it referenced in my book, so you can have the exact location of it. And that was a while ago, so I'm sure there's been lots more. And I think it's so helpful because our people in America or around the world, we all like science. So when science is showing us, like the last several years, how powerful and important meditation and mindfulness is, how it changes our brain, how it could change our life, then people pay attention. So it's good to know. So and also I'll teach parents and children. There's a study in North Carolina, Duke, by one of my colleagues, Miranda Van Tilburg. And she and other colleagues were working with children with functional stomach pain, chronic, so it was after over 6 months, and conventional techniques didn't work. And they did imagery techniques, they did meditation techniques, and one of their techniques was having them imagine a stone in their hand that melted, became warm, and melted like butter. And they taught the kids to put that hand over their belly, and that helped relieve their pain. Now, I've been doing this for many, many years with children and teens and parents and adults. So I was so happy to see that that was such a powerful tool for them in their study. So I'll often have the parents imagine love in their heart, and imagine the love in their heart moving down their arms into their hands. And then they can put their hands on their child's, the back of their heart chakra or wherever. It's kind of like an extension, like when you hurt yourself, you want your mom or whoever to kiss your boo-boo,
And it's still powerful, it works.
It's the love that's coming through.
Exactly.
So why not use that love in another way? And you could do that through your hands, you could do that through your eyes, through loving eyes. You could do it in many ways. So I'm just bringing that awareness to people and to kids so that they can help themselves as well.
Yep. Thank you so much for all these tools now. Okay, they definitely seems like a lot of fun, and they are a lot of fun. A lot of kids now, like you said, who are anxious or are bullied. How can these tools help them to develop resilience, going through the stages of life that it's sometimes tough?
I think it's it's very important to start now. So however old your child is, whether they're 4 or 8 or 12 or 18, today is the time to help them start connecting to their inner wisdom, to teach them breathing, meditation, because that makes your inside stronger. That helps you become more resilient. And as they learn inner tools, they're less dependent on outside tools. So they have the access to help themselves. So if a bully, if someone is bullying them, if they feel good, if the child we're focusing on feels good about themselves, they're less likely to be bothered. Like, if I say to you, this is like, I heard this years ago, you have green hair. You don't care. But, you know, if I say something that hits your tender spot, I don't know you well enough yet, but I wouldn't do that. But that's going to bother you. If you feel really strong and good, and, you know, maybe I have this fault, but that's okay. I have some of the other qualities. To realize that a bully is in a very low position. And I like to think, look, if we're feeling up here, the bully is feeling down here, and the bullying is to try to bring us down to make him feel better. To bring you down to his level or her level to make him feel better. But I work with bullies too, and I try to have them learn to feel better about themselves, to feel good about themselves, to connect with their own love for themselves, so it doesn't need to happen. So to me, that path is about loving yourself, respecting yourself, and therefore being able to love and respect others and helping others. You know, when we're feeling down, a really good thing is to go help someone else. And service, you know, there's so many ways kids could learn to do service. That's so helpful. It's so helpful. I have a colleague friend, Kathy Kane. She has a whole worldwide network on service learning for children, and it's so helpful. So, okay, so the idea, I'll always tell you, go back inside. That's where your answers are. Take some time to spend time with you. I think when kids it's very addictive, you know, video games, a lot of them are with guns, a lot of them with killing. And the problem is it numbs our kids to what it really is. And so I'm not really a big proponent of it. So I would limit it as much as possible and focus more on, you know, critical thinking, fun, you know, interesting games, creative games, if you can. Of course, they might be at their friend's house where they're doing all this stuff, but it still limits things. The idea is to teach your kids your values, you know, of honesty, self-respect, caring for others. I mean, we all have basic, similar good values, and we want to emphasize that to our kids and show it at home. I mean, we know that, one, our kids teach us so much, and whatever we haven't resolved in ourselves, they bring up for us to look at. And I mean, people say, well, when they get to be, you know, 12 or 11, their friends are most important. And that could be true. But parents are still the most powerful influences for a long time. And they're still hearing you, even if they're going, no, no. I mean, there's nothing like that bond. So, and anyone can make a difference in a child's life. Whether you work with them, one person can make a difference by being that shining example of compassion, love, caring, respect.
You were saying you work with 4 years old. How early can you start with these techniques?
Well, I would say 4. Normally I would work with younger, but they take naps often in my office. Start at 4. So that's another important point you're bringing up, because the work I do goes across age spans. And the only difference in my mind is the words you say. And whoever you're working with or whoever your children are, you know how to talk to them. So I might not use balloon breath for an older teen. I might just use deep breathing or meditation breathing. You know, I might not, you know, I just you naturally change the way you talk to kids. Don't you? You notice?
Absolutely. You know, an example came to mind. I had a client in her 50s. I didn't know she had multiple personality. And in the middle of the session, she changed to a 5-year-old. She had no clue what I was saying. I had to totally change my vocabulary.
Yes.
And then, you know, bring that up and, you know, help her grow to be 50, and it was okay. But you're right, you can do the same type of work. with just a different vocabulary.
Exactly. Same type of work, just a different vocabulary. It's all about the inner tools and helping kids, teenagers, adults access them. It's very helpful. I've seen when you said you had a adult with multiple personalities. I had a teenager. She didn't have multiple personalities, but she was very, very sad and felt terrible. She was like 15, 16, but her parents divorced when she was 6. And there was still a little 6-year-old in her heart that was crying and in pain and felt it was her fault that her parents divorced. So we had to work with that little girl inside and help her heal. And then she could kind of grow herself up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was also thinking different words trigger different people. You know, you said you didn't know me well enough. A lot of words that trigger Americans don't bother me. If you insult me in English, I don't feel much. If you insult me in French,
En français.
then, en français, exactly.
J'habitais en Belgique pour 4 ans.
Yeah, pardon me?
I said French. I lived in Belgium for 4 years.
Oh, okay. They have a different French than Switzerland.
They do.
Yeah, you know, and what I found out too, that sometimes people have to tell me their story in their language to make a difference, because it's different if you experience it in one language or in another.
That's absolutely true, and different personalities come out. I know this in myself when I'm in Spain and I'm speaking Spanish. It's very different than when I'm speaking English or French. And I'll ask kids what, you know, if they speak another language. Well, my 3 languages, you know, can't be like Chinese. I won't understand anything. But, you know, what language, you know, they could speak to me however they want.
I did have one time working with a Chinese lady. She brought a translator.
I did that with a Korean little girl. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was very helpful. It was very helpful. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so let me see if there is anything else that I wanted to ask you. Well, you have a great book that I will encourage people to get. Any additional tool that you can think about?
Well, you know, some people, when they read The Power of Your Child's Imagination, they're like gung-ho, I'm going to try this right away. And some people need a little extra help, so I created a lot of meditation CDs, which they could access through my site. And if they prefer a download, just email me and I'll send them the link to get those. And I want to help whoever's working with kids, and the kids do their best and to reach their potential. So anyway, and of course, I'm always happy to do more training for people and give them the tools more directly. That's what, you know, it's so much fun to work.
It is so much fun, yeah.
Yeah.
For the person, you know, I have many times, people ask me what I like so much in my work, and I say, no, I don't like to see people come in crying. What I like to see is people leaving, laughing, because we played with these tools and they got so much wisdom out of these very deep tools, really.
Yes, yeah. It's just, I'm so happy. This is, you know, the path I'm on. It's what I'm meant to do. So I really feel fortunate, and I'm very grateful to be able to work with kids of all ages, including the parents. And that's why I even created the parent kind of CD, so they could receive the appreciation they need and they could trust their own intuition. I mean, that's a lot of it. I try to really encourage and support parents to trust that.
Yeah, absolutely, because a lot of parents have been shut off of their imagination, and that's where a lot of power resides.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us and for this interview. I truly appreciate it.
Oh,
and hopefully we'll have you again.
Wonderful to
Thank
speak
you.
with you. Thank you so much.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.